It's history of African Americans in Los Angeles. It's not only history of prominent African Americans like politicians, entertainers, sports figures. It's also just regular average people, working people, whose story is often not saved in history. And specifically the African American history has not always been considered worth preserving.
Many of the collections come to us in fairly bad condition. They've been stored in garages or outbuildings. They have very little documentation of the photographs.
These images were taken, or these photographs were taken before digital, so they are saved on negatives, and we have to make sure the negatives don't get destroyed. We can't let the oils from our fingers get on the negatives. That's why we wear the gloves. We don't want, we have to make sure that it's not around acid products, because acid can infect any prints that we might have. So it's all to make sure that everything is maintained and preserved and conserved and well into the future. We decide which photographs, based on our research and our knowledge, are significant to the African American community, and we pull them, and we pull the negatives after viewing the negatives and determining who's in them, and pass them on to the archival technicians. They will take a photograph, and they also do research. So they'll take a negative, scan it at high resolution, because these are preservation copies that you can make access copies of lower resolution at a later date with, but we want to get them stored safely in the archival best practices first, and that's what they do. So today I might look at several sheets of images, decide who's in it, if it's important or if it's significant, or maybe if it's entertaining, or if it's a different shot, and I'll go through maybe a box, archival box, and pull them and give them to Wendy, and I'll designate which ones I want to preserve. The digitized copy will end up in the database on one of the computers or several of the computers, and also in the we have a storage drive, an 8 terabyte storage drive that eventually they'll all end up on. So when someone wants to come in and see an image, they can look at them, they can sit at a computer like here and look at several strips or rows of images, and it'll have the metadata on that photograph.
They need a good deal of work in terms of the conservation process, and then an enormous amount of work in terms of research to identify people in the photographs. In other words, to be able to attach the appropriate metadata to the photograph, so that when an individual sees these online, they'll be able to know what they're looking at.